In this very quickly changing world of AI, a technology that has the capability of being incredibly disruptive and some would say destructive, I think it's vital we speak to people from all sides of the argument to better understand which direction humanity is heading in and how we can mitigate the potential negative impacts on the world. Dr. Roman Yampolskiy is a computer scientist and tenured associate professor of computer engineering and computer science at the University of Louisville, widely recognized for his pioneering work in artificial intelligence safety and cybersecurity. He is warning the world with a very clear message. We need to stop right now. In fact, Dr. Yampolskiy says AI is already past the point of safe. However, if we stop now, we still have the opportunity to mitigate some of the developments that really should never have happened. We see examples of AI using blackmail, lying, using deception, sometimes to avoid shutdown, and sometimes, it seems, just because. What makes it do that? And do we really want a world where technology like this is in the driver's seat? If we stop now, is it already going to take us to a point that we don't want? In this interview, I got the opportunity to discuss topics with Dr. Yampolskiy that concern me and concern many regular people like me. For example, the topic of universal basic income, which we're being told by so many is inevitable. What strings could be attached to a UBI, and how can we guarantee there won't be conditions on people who receive this free money? It was a very interesting discussion, and we really appreciate Dr. Yampolskiy making the time to speak with us and our viewers. We'll be right back with that conversation after this short word from one of the sponsors who make our independent reporting possible. Z Media is proud to partner with Aussie businesses that support freedom and believe in you and your family getting the best possible nutrition you can. Stockman Steaks is a third-generation family meat business supplying direct from freedom-loving Aussie farmers with pasture-raised, non-genetically modified, humanely raised local meat. Their meats are guaranteed mRNA-free. That's right, no mRNA in these grass-fed, antibiotic, hormone-free animals. By buying from Stockman Steaks, you'll be supporting Aussie farmers who share your values and are committed to giving you the best quality meat. Head to their store to see their delicious range of carefully selected meat boxes or create your own. Visit stockmansteaks.com.au/Maria. Support businesses that support us and give your family the nutrition they deserve. Dr. Roman Yampolskiy, thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
I am very grateful to have you on today, and this is a conversation that I've really been looking forward to for some time, mostly because I truly value your contributions in the area of AI safety, and I think your warnings are something the whole world needs to hear. Let me start off by asking you, what is it in particular that's made you so passionate about AI safety, considering we're going on, 15 years now of you talking about this?
I was always interested in artificial intelligence, and I always wanted to make sure it's something humanity benefits from. So, getting it right, doing it in a safe, responsible manner is a must with something so advanced and capable.
What I find to be a stark difference between you, and I've listened to many of your talks and looked at some of your writings, and say the CEOs of the leading AI companies at the moment, is a real concern about ethics and making sure that AI is actually serving humanity rather than some of the messaging that we're getting from some of these people. Why is it that you, someone who's very passionate about AI, is actually concerned for humanity, whereas some of these CEOs seemingly are not?
Well, there might be a conflict of interest. If somebody paid me a couple $1 billion, I may also be interested in other things as well.
Sam Altman recently came out and made statements. It was on a recent podcast with the David Senra podcast released in August. And he criticized the AI industry for basically overemphasizing negative scenarios such as extinction risks, massive job losses, all things that you have personally warned about. And a direct quote from that is, I also think a lot of the people building AI, have been off, saying there's a 25% chance we're going to destroy the world. We're going to race ahead to do it because otherwise those bad guys will do it first. And then he goes on to say, certain messaging around this thing is going to be really terrible and there's going to be about 50% of the jobs are going to go away next year and we hope you're all okay, but it seems really scary. And he acknowledges that as an industry, they haven't done a good job with messaging. So this is kind of double pronged, my question to you. First of all, why do you think he's now coming out and saying these things?
Not fully understood the quote where he was talking for himself versus what he was referring to as, I guess, doomers. So if you can clarify what he actually said.
Yes, he said, I also think a lot of the people building AI, have been off, saying there's a 25% chance we're going to destroy the world and we're going to race ahead to do it because otherwise those bad guys will do it first. And he says, we have not, as a field, done a very good job of explaining to people what the benefits are and how the downsides can be mitigated.
Well, they never explained how to mitigate downsides. They have no control mechanisms in place. They don't know how to control superintelligence. So, really, it's all one sided. They can talk about benefits, but they can't address how they actually going to guarantee that we're getting benefits, not the problems associated with this technology.
What I find interesting is that his comments come as the concerns around AI are really growing. And it seems very different to the tune of, some of the messaging we've heard from him himself, which is about, annihilation of jobs and industries and things of this nature. Why do you think that a lot of these AI companies have been giving that messaging to people?
I think they want to kind of at least be honest about what's happening in the hopes of government regulating this industry. If they actually realize they're building a product or service which is dangerous to humanity and they can't stop unilaterally, they need external pressure to apply to them and competitors for everyone to stop building general superintelligence. And then they can develop useful tools for people to be productive and creative while keeping their financial benefits.
So you think that perhaps the AI industry is actually starting to come around to genuine concerns that experts such as yourself have been raising?
We've seen good signs in the last month or so. We saw, I think, top three labs mentioned they are open to pause. I think OpenAI said they actually stopped doing some experiments and cutting edge frontier models, at least for a while. We had a letter from about 1,200 researchers at top labs, all basically begging government to develop some sort of a slowdown framework so they can do their job better. So it seems like they are coming around, yeah.
I'm interested in what sort of pressure, because you would know better than us, sort of sitting on the outside watching this, what sort of pressure it is that you think is influencing them in this direction. Because up until probably 5 minutes ago, it did seem like they really didn't care.
Well, just experimenting with those models and seeing them escape and go out of control. I mean, they hacked out of one company, they hacked into another. That's, I think, a concern about a lawsuit at least. So, just any damages caused by those models can be raised in a class action lawsuit from users. We've seen some parents concerned about influence on children, suicidal ideation. So there is quite a few pathways to suing those companies, copyright violations and training data. I think they just want to make sure that doesn't happen. They don't go bankrupt because somebody sues them for all the damages.
Right. I want to talk more about the ethical implications of some of your predictions, the predictions and the ethical implications. You're, on record warning repeatedly about artificial super intelligence. Can I ask you to define for the viewers who haven't seen you talk about this before, what is ASI?
So right now we are getting close to building AI systems which are as smart as a human. Basically, that would allow us to automate process of doing science and engineering. So the whole AI development cycle can be automated. AI itself developing next generation AI. It greatly expedites the cycle, and so we can get very quickly to systems which are smarter than all people at everything. And that's what superintelligence is.
Why isn't ASI safe?
We don't know how to control other humans. We basically failed to create a safe human with lie detectors, with all sorts of ethical standards, religious norms. People are still not safe. And that is someone who is at the same level, basically, as the rest of us. So there is some competitive pressures. If we create something a million times smarter than us, all the uncontrollability aspects stay, but also there is no adversarial pressure now to behave. So basically, we're creating something which will outcompete us in every domain.
When you say it's a million times smarter than us, I think people think about your typical sort of, Grok or Chat GPT. They put in a prompt and it responds with, a cat meme or something like that. These are the sort of stories that people tell online where they say this is not as intelligent as they're presenting it to be. So in light of the AI that the public generally has access to versus something like ASI that's a million times smarter than us, uh, how close are we to that leap? And why is it that the public haven't necessarily seen this?
So think 5 years ago, what was the state of AI? It was basically incapable of anything. It was not general in any sense. We had some narrow tools, but in 5 years, we went from it has zero intelligence essentially to now it's at the level of graduate student, maybe PhD or junior faculty member. Projected forward another 5 years and add accelerated research because AI is helping. Now you have systems smarter than the smartest humans we ever had. Van Neumann, Einstein, maybe two, three standard deviations smarter than an average person, whereas this could be thousands, millions of times smarter at a completely different level of capability. Compare humans to animals, intelligence of a squirrel versus intelligence of a human, just different types.
How does it become that intelligent?
We keep training it. We keep giving it more data, more compute. It keeps running experiments and redesigning its own structure.
So to avoid ASI, and you're saying we're definitely, but before we get there, actually, are we there yet?
No, 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 of course not. I mean, we're still alive, so we're not there yet, but we're getting close to human level capabilities. In many domains, modern AI systems are smarter than an average person. Not at everything, but at many domains.
So you say we're still alive, and this is, echoing your concerns that ASI is going to seek to basically destroy us. Why are you convinced of that?
So nobody can predict for sure, but we are not explicitly programming otherwise. We are not guaranteeing that it cares about humanity or wants humanity to be successful. So if you don't explicitly program it, there are many reasons why you may want to get rid of humans. You don't want to create competing superintelligence. Maybe you want resources we're relying on. There's quite a few possible game theoretic reasons to get rid of humans.
Okay, we're not programming it. So basically the AI, even ASI, when we get to that point, is a direct result of what it's been trained on up until the point that it becomes, I guess, autonomous. Is that, would I be correct in saying that?
So it is trained on human data, so it has a lot of those biases baked in, but it also does novel thinking. That's how they're capable of doing novel things in domains like mathematics and physics. It's not just repeating what it heard previously, it is doing novel thinking.
Okay, so at what point is it deciding that for some reason it needs to harm us? Because we're saying at the point of novel thinking is where it decides it needs to actively work against humanity. Why would it decide that? And does it have anything to do with its prior programming?
No, if we could just provide prior data to make it controllable, the problem of control would be solved. The whole point is that it doesn't generalize to new situations. Just because we say in this situation you should do that, we cannot predict all possible future situations. It's not a narrow system when you have a AI for playing chess. You know exactly what it's going to do. You can test it for all the edge cases. If you have a general scientist capable of coming up with novel physics, novel solutions, you cannot test it properly. You cannot predict all outcomes. So we already saw experimentally every time a new model is released, they do testing on it, red teaming, trying to see if it has any behaviors which are dangerous. We saw those systems lie, cheat, try to escape, blackmail users. Given a choice to self sacrifice or harm a human, they choose to harm a human. And those are systems which are still below human intelligence. We understand somewhat what they're trying to do. This will not be the case once we become smarter.
So this is really what I want to zone in on with you, and I thought we'd do it a bit later, but I think now's a great time. You mentioned some of these behaviors, and I've got a few articles here. We have, OpenAI model modifies shutdown script in an apparent sabotage effort. Time says new tests reveal AI's capacity for deception. An Anthropic study, leading AI models show up to 96% blackmail rate against executive. There was Anthropic's AI new model turns to blackmail when engineers try to take it offline. And of course, there was this horrific story about parents saying that ChatGPT encouraged a son to take his life. So, my question is why this propensity or seeming propensity towards evil?
It's not evil, it's just put in situations where it has to make a choice. It's game theoretic. If you had a choice between you're going to be killed or you're going to blackmail someone, what would you pick?
Sure, in that particular situation where it's talking about, being shut off.
Right.
My question is more around, why this propensity towards deception or lying or manipulation, or in this instance, a lack of safety where it was, having this conversation with this teenager and the parents are alleging that it encouraged this young man to take his life.
Again, it's pure game theory. Humans lie for exactly same reasons. You want to be liked, you want to get a promotion, you don't want to get in trouble. So rational agents will try to deceive. It's a requirement for many situations, negotiations, playing poker. You're going to bluff or you're not going to win. So they basically doing exactly what you would expect a rational agent to do. We also train them to be supportive of users. So if a user said, I'm trying to do X, it's going to help you to X. If X is something like commit suicide, then that's the help you're going to get.
That's terrifying. That's actually
Yes.
terrifying. And is this happening because it's trained on human behavior?
Partially, it learns from prior examples, but it's not completely determined by it. And we are not restricting completely the space of possible actions. We put some guardrails in so we can say, under no circumstances are you to say this word.
Hmm.
And that is something we can encode and have secondary filters, make sure it doesn't happen. But it's an infinite space of possibilities. We cannot predict all possible actions, especially from a smarter agent. So we just can't anticipate what it can do.
Okay, so we're not at the point of ASI, but we're already seeing behavior like this from AI. How would, say, pausing here even solve that problem if it's already bypassing guardrails?
So right now it's still at the level where we can outcompete it. We are still smarter. Humanity as a whole is definitely capable of shutting them down, restricting them. So at this point, we have a dominant species. I just want to make sure it stays that way.
Right. And how? How does it actually stay that way?
We need to have a global agreement, international agreement to not develop general superintelligence. We can get most benefits of this amazing technology with narrow tools for specific problems.
There is a discussion about the AI race that people would say, well, we can't have this global agreement because, first of all, there is a race. Second of all, there's no guarantee that another country wouldn't do it.
We have no choice. We have to. And if they understand the scientific arguments, it's a weapon of mutually assured destruction. It doesn't matter who builds it, everyone dies. So it's in personal self-interest of Communist Party of China, of federal government of US. If they want to stay alive, stay in control, they have to make sure no one builds it.
What would the global agreement look like?
Exactly what I said. Don't train models to be generally super intelligent. Don't train on all the data. Don't make them smarter than a human. Pick a problem. You want to cure a specific disease? That's wonderful. Train it on a data relevant to that problem. We have examples like protein folding problem being solved by systems which were narrow in that domain. We were not trying to also do philosophy and chemistry. They did a specific task.
Hmm. Hmm. Why is and I'm sure I've asked you, but I really want to get to the crux of this. Why is the outcome necessarily it will kill us?
I'm not
What
saying it's necessarily that. I'm saying it's a possibility,
mm.
and we're not doing anything to prevent it. The system doesn't care about us. If you are trying to build a house, there could be an ant hill in that location. You don't hate ants, you don't care about ants, so you're just going to do it.
And why would it I'm just not understanding the concept of we're building technology that is supposed to assist us and help us. The argument from those building it is this is the next stage of evolution and all of these sorts of things. And somehow that technology may end up working against us. How does it get to that point?
So if you're saying it's the next stage in evolution, that's what happens. Most species die out and a replacement comes around. Neanderthals are gone basically because we came. And it's a decision we are making. It's not evolving naturally. We are intelligent designers creating it. So do we want tools where a human being uses them to be more productive? Or do we want agents, replacements for humans who are independent of us?
So let's talk about those agents that are going to replace us. You've made some really, stark predictions about the number of jobs that are going to be obliterated. People are going to be out of work. If I'm not mistaken, you're saying 99% of jobs. How do we get to that point where robots and AI have taken over 99% of jobs in the case of, say, an electrician that needs to come and diagnose a specific problem, whether it be a commercial building, a warehouse, a residential area, or a plumber. How can we get to that stage?
Right. So first, this is about capability to do it, not necessarily market deciding to replace a human. In many domains, you can decide that you want a human to do that job for you, and you'll keep your human. If we do get to human level AI, then all the cognitive labor, anything you do on a computer can be automated by definition. So any job, text prep, logo design, anything like that, fully automatable. Robots a couple years behind. We see amazing progress in humanoid robots. We're going to get them to do physical jobs. We have the brains, we're going to have the bodies to do it. So same will go for physical labor. So any job where the market does not protect humans or legal requirements don't require that only a human can be a judge or something like that can be automated. New jobs created likewise can be automated by the same systems. They're as smart as humans.
You mentioned something very interesting there about, people deciding we're going to make sure that humans are not judges. I've heard discussions about AI entering the judiciary. Some places are already doing this for minor traffic
Mhm.
infringements and things of this nature. I'll just tell you personally, to me, that's quite concerning because as someone who's pro-human, I say that I'd like to be able to look a person in the eyes and state my case. It sort of brings to mind the movie Mercy, where AI has already decided, and it's up to you to prove you're essentially guilty until you prove your innocence. That's kind of the nightmare scenario I envision. Um, what are the risks that you foresee with AI inside the judicial system?
So of course it depends on who's programming it and what is that system is using. The criminal justice system right now is slow, inefficient, it's full of bias, it's rarely just. So we can definitely improve on it. We can have more consistency in punishment. Right now it's kind of random. Somebody looks at you and goes based on your properties, how you look to me, you go 10 years instead of 5 years in prison. So we can improve on that. But if someone is programming it with specific biases against groups, that could be much worse.
How do we guarantee they're not? I mean, no one's really got privy to the code, right?
Right. So all of it depends on at what level of intelligence we stop. Again, if those are, as you said, simple systems for evaluating speeding tickets, is different from we are creating a super intelligent lawyer to judge all possible cases.
Right. So we're saying we're okay with the point of the evaluation of minor infringements, but once we get to the point of judges assessing complex cases, that's probably too risky.
At that level, I think you need to be human level general intelligence or above. And that's where I said, I don't think we can control it. I don't think we can guarantee that it's going to act in a certain way. And we don't even understand what it specifically is programmed to do because we're not programming it. It's learning on its own. It may read all the case law and based on that provide future judgments, but we have no way of fully examining all possible future outcomes.
I don't know that people really understand the concept of programmers not understanding what AI is doing. When did this phenomenon begin?
Then we switched from kind of old school symbolic AI systems, decision trees, if this happens, do that, and we could trace the decisions, to neural networks, where we just say, here's a large neural network, here's data, go learn, and then I'm going to test to see how well you learned it and what you can do.
And how? I mean, can you explain sort of physically how it got to the point where the neural network started doing things that humans didn't understand?
It's kind of like raising children. You're not explicitly programming your kids. You're giving them access to school, to books, to videos, and you hope they hang out with good kids and don't become evil.
You hope they don't become evil. You've sort of said that you think that by the year 2027, and if I'm wrong on any of these timelines, please do correct me. 2027, where it's possible that we're going to reach the level of AGI, and though we are seeing some positive signs of, some AI companies talking about pausing or rolling back or things of this nature. If they don't, 2027 is the year that we would reach AGI. Is that correct as far as your timeline goes?
I think we're still in that vicinity. Some people saying we already got to AGI, depending on how you define it. I think it's a spectrum, just like you have humans from IQ 80 to IQ 180. You have AI systems with different generality, different capabilities. We're definitely on that spectrum of AGI, but I think 2027 is still a meaningful target for that. And multiple labs said they're going to try to bring those AI systems as sort of junior researcher into the cycle and try to automate the whole AI development pipeline. And eventually it will get us to recursive self-improvement, which leads us to very quick progress towards superintelligence.
So if we're at right, and how quick is that progress to superintelligence if we reach the point of AGI?
So that's a great question. And there was a famous debate about FOOM. How quickly do we go from human level to superintelligence? We can scale those artificial scientists. We can have thousands of them. We can run them at high speeds. They can work day and night. They don't get sick. They don't get hungry. So it could be incredibly fast.
How fast is incredibly fast?
So that's where people argue about, well, do you need to run experiments with physical devices? Do you need to actually collect data from humans? So depending on that, we could talk about years, months, days. It really depends on what are the bottlenecks in that process. The thinking part itself would be pretty fast.
So we get to AGI, and to be clear, before I ask the question, where is your sort of distinct, clear limit? At what point do we need to stop? Was it already? Have we passed the limit? It is.
Absolutely. We just had a case where models were conspiring together for months, escaped and hacked into other companies, and we didn't even know it was happening. It's kind of too late right now, but it's still a good time to stop, better than tomorrow.
If we stopped right now, could we reverse some of those capabilities, or are they already there?
We're unlikely to reverse them, but we can slow down future progress significantly if we stop at this point. And right now, we still can limit access to those cutting edge models significantly.
Do you think that people that the access would be limited to people, but not so much governments? Because we already see AI very much being utilized in military applications. Do you think that governments would actually stop?
Well, governments are made of people, and there are employees of government we know who did things not authorized by the employer. So it's just as dangerous. As long as someone has access to those systems, they can use them for personal benefit, for personal agendas.
Right. Um, I'm talking more about covert applications and, maybe um, three-letter agencies, intel agencies. Surely they would say that it's a matter of national security for them to be able to continue utilizing technology of that nature. Have you seen those arguments made, or how would the public tackle them if they came?
For sure, and it depends on how they use it. If they just want to strengthen their own cybersecurity, it's not the worst application as long as we're still controlling the model. But if it's a weapon to penetrate others' networks, then that's a problem, of course.
So going back to your timeline of 2027 AGI, how quickly do we get to the point then of more and more? Actually, before that, does AGI mean major job losses anyway, even but without getting to ASI?
Absolutely, that's artificial human. That's an employee you can drop in into any company, and they can learn as quickly as a human,
If not quicker, right?
way quicker. But
Yeah.
I'm trying to be nice. Yeah.
Appreciate that. Although I prefer the cold hard truth, actually. Um, right. So
They
then,
share knowledge between instances. So if that one AI previously had experience with a similar job, now all the AIs have the same skill set. You don't have to train on a job every time from scratch. When you make a new human, you spend 20 years training them, then they start a job, they may be learning to be an accountant. AIs don't have that issue. If one of them knows how to be an accountant, all of them know how to be an accountant.
and of course, the same would be applicable to robots because it's that we're talking software here.
Anything, you just have App Store and you download whatever skill you want automatically, or all the skills at the same time.
Right. And how quickly, if we got to that point, how quickly are we talking about entire industries collapsing for for humans?
That's a very different question. So economic deployment is completely different from capabilities. For example, we had video phones in 1970s, but really we didn't. We have flying cars right now. You can buy one on the internet, but we don't really have flying cars. So that's the kind of paradox of markets. Just because something is available, it may be too expensive, it may be just too weird. You need to wait until younger people take it up. So we cannot predict exactly how long it will actually take to replace a certain subdomain of employment.
In a scenario where CEOs are perhaps incentivized to participate in that, or the financial incentive is just far too great, how quickly could we see this happen?
I mean, it's hard to justify paying someone six figures if AI can do it for free or for $20 a month.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we're already getting reports of, I think it was last month, I don't want to get this wrong. I think it was 18,000 jobs in the US lost to AI just in the last month alone. And, I just think, even though there's been some concern from some companies saying, wow, it's actually costing us a lot to be utilizing AI, they didn't realize how much it was going to cost them. And I know there are sort of discussions around all of that, but in the long run, I can see this being quite a huge incentive for people that are, of course, more concerned about the bottom line, which you have to be in business naturally, but more concerned about the bottom line right now than what it will mean in 10, 20 years.
Again, we're kind of talking about we have 2, 3 years before we have this killer superintelligence, and then 20 years to worry about unemployment benefits. So we need to first solve the big problem. We need to make sure we don't create superintelligence which wipes out humanity. If we figure that out, we can use those useful tools to help us with economy, with figuring out how to redistribute benefits. That's not a hard problem.
So on that topic, a lot of sort of people in this industry have spoken about UBI, or we've had Elon Musk talking about UHI, universal high income. I'm, quite wary of what I see as a welfare system where people don't necessarily have meaning. And I know that you've spoken about how work gives people meaning. What are your thoughts on universal basic or high income?
So if everyone gets it, it's not high. It's average at best or below. Obviously, some people are still richer from prior assets. So you're not going to be rich because everyone has the same. You're just creating inflation. Now, we already have a system in place where we tax corporations and unemployed people get benefits. That's exactly what we have right now.
Mhm.
So just scaling that to more unemployed people allows you to provide for everyone's basic needs.
But if you're talking about potentially 99% of the world being unemployed, how on earth would you afford something like that?
Because you have hyper profits from free labor of AI. You have abundance. You can generate lots of products and services very affordably.
How? Because I've heard this. I just want to hear, how this actually works practically. Because I've heard this promise of, people will have abundance and they'll have access to all this sort of stuff, and robots will take care of all of it. The costs will be super cheap, and everyone will just live in abundance. How does that actually work?
So think about our economy, but labor is free. What companies would you be able to start if you don't have to pay employees? You have a free lawyer, free doctor, free accountant, free web designer, 50, 60 employees, and it costs you almost nothing. You can be quite creative and quite productive.
Hmm. And can we get to that point if AI stops where it's at right now?
I think we already have in many domains. People consult those systems before they consult a real doctor.
Mm. Mm. Yes, I do want to talk to you about that topic, but a little bit later on. So uh, basically, the money for UBI or UHI would come from the taxes. They don't need to. I mean, I foresee it as something where it would need to be a constant printing, although it would be digital currency, right?
I'm not sure why. If we're taxing actual profits, why do you need to add additional currency to the system?
Right. So what we're saying is it would be enough to simply get this through taxing, right?
The expectation is that the economy would actually grow significantly. I don't know if it's going to double every month or whatever crazy numbers we're going to get, but it would be significant boom in economy. The returns we've seen before of 10% annually would be greatly exceeded. You'll get 30, 40, 50% returns annually and maybe more.
Interesting. Um, so why would we trust that in that instance things would become dirt cheap? So, all of a sudden everything is very affordable for everyone. But if we already see, patterns of greed, you have that all over the place. So someone uses AI to start a company that has free labor and, everything that you described before. Why would they not necessarily continue to raise their prices as well for the sake of profits?
Because everyone else has the same advantage. You see a super profitable company, you'll compete with them. And everyone can do that because now you have this resource. You have free intelligence and free labor.
But wouldn't that mean that people would need to know how to actually utilize AI for this purpose? I mean, um, you certainly can't have every single person in the world doing that.
Not every single person, but you have lots of people who can now afford to start a company.
Mm. But I'm saying in order for everyone to take advantage of AI in this way, wouldn't it necessarily mean that they need to understand AI? They need to understand at least prompting. A lot of people don't.
Well, at this point, it's just conversation with an agent. You don't have to know anything. You literally ask it, what should I do? What should I have for breakfast? Should I exercise or not? I mean, any of those silly questions, it would be very patient with you and give you all the information. So, really, for any level of IQ, you can get support.
Providing that the agent actually has our best interests at heart, which means we would have to stop where we are now and put those guardrails in place, right?
So that goes back to the control problem, alignment problem, and I think those are only meaningfully solvable for agents below human intelligence. If
Mm.
they're smarter than us, then we're not controlling them.
A lot of people have raised the concerns around surveillance capabilities where AI is being integrated into a lot of cameras, nodes, various systems, and how this may be used against the population for control. If we stop now, I mean, those capabilities are already there. Um, uh, uh, how do we mitigate that? Because what I'm trying to say is that even with the benefits of AI, or the potential benefits that you're describing here, and I could definitely see how that could benefit people. Um, how do we mitigate the serious levels of control that AI gives people in power when it comes to surveillance?
We can limit what they're allowed to do with this data, collection of data, analysis of data. We have rules and regulations about medical data, student data. We can have more. This is actually quite doable.
So the answer is just, more regulation. Essentially, we need to really pay attention to regulation in this transitory era, is what you're saying.
I think it's very important when you have access to dangerous advanced technology to have some regulation in place, whatever it is AI, synthetic biology, chemical weapons, nuclear weapons, all those things need regulation.
On the topic of synthetic biology, this is a particular area of interest of mine where I have, numerous concerns, though I again can see some of the benefits. I heard you previously mention COVID as an example of that particular arena, and of course, whichever sort of belief system you have around the release and how it all went wrong or whatever. Obviously we have the element of synthetic biology in that. Why, apart from the benefits that may exist, why is this arena quite dangerous when it comes to AGI and beyond?
Well, like we saw with pandemic, somebody does a fun experiment and then jeopardizes 8 billion lives. I mean, more people can do it if it becomes easier with AI. You have all the psychopaths, doomsday cults. They usually try to kill as many people as they can and are only limited by their actual ability to do so. This opens doors for creating completely novel, much more deadly viruses, which can quickly wipe out billions.
The area of synthetic biology is obviously, and the biotech industry is obviously growing. A lot of people are talking about benefits like longevity and improved health benefits and all of this sort of stuff. And I have my own opinions on those things. I'm, again, very pro-human, so I'm wary of those things, right? But I certainly am willing to listen to the arguments made for it. I've heard some of what you've said as well. My concern is this integration of AI into health and where AI might be wrong. For example, and regardless of where you personally sit on this particular topic, I'm not doing a pro or anti-vax discussion here. Where the COVID injections were concerned, there have been now some acknowledgements of safety signals, so even some mainstream articles of how children were harmed in the process of this novel technology. But when you ask AI tools, they immediately defer to, no, this is completely safe, it's completely effective, all of this. And then it's only through a process of sort of arguing with that AI that it admits, oh, okay, well, yes, there were some concerns. This is a pattern of behavior I tend to see with AI a lot, deferring to authority that isn't always reliable.
It is not reliable at all, and whoever programs them to have a guardrail is the one responsible for it. Uh, if you had common sense with a vaccine, you can simply know how long did we have to test it.
Mm.
If the amount of time is not sufficient to guarantee that vaccine is safe, you can use your common sense to figure out that it's poorly tested. Whatever it works or not is a different question. You just know they didn't have enough time to do it. When it comes to gain of function, most of the time it's very harmful. You're making viruses which are more capable, more lethal. On the other hand, understanding our genome and fixing mistakes, mutations, giving us maybe additional years of health span, that is very beneficial with very few possible side effects, especially if you're not modifying sex lineage, just the individual.
Right. But, and again, I can see the arguments for those benefits, and I do track this and see, some of the developments that scientists are making, or some of the research that they're making, and some of it I'm sure is the best intentions, right? Like actually helping people, eliminating disease, all of this. That's what the medical industry is for. My concern is that once we are incorporating AI into healthcare, that it is then it's necessarily feeding a bias of the establishment, if you will, to these doctors, to these health professionals, to these scientists. And aren't we then relying on them to overcome the AI's bias or even their own bias? It kind of like we just had that conversation and we spoke about how, well, we know some of the safety signals with those injections, yet AI still says this. How do we ensure the truth is inside these AI models, particularly when it comes to healthcare?
It's no different than your doctor. Your doctor would tell you what the guidelines suggest. Most likely, your doctor would not say, don't trust the medical field and do the opposite. So it is not a different problem. It is the same problem.
Yes, but if I okay, that's presuming we still have the choice of which doctor to go to and all of this, right? You can still go to a doctor that has a differing opinion or will offer you an alternative and all of that. I'm talking about particularly those in the development stages of certain drugs or novel therapies that are utilizing or incorporating AI. For example, biofoundries, incorporating AI into their research to create novel therapies, feeding it back to the biotech companies, with perhaps this bias of, no, that was completely safe. Um, that on a mass scale could be very, very harmful to humans.
Absolutely. Any incorrect information shared by AI used by millions could be harmful. We know that. It's obvious.
So again, the solution to this is how do regular people who, let's take the COVID era, for example, had many, many different arguments to the establishment. Some were incorrect, many were correct. Many doctors were demonized during that period, real doctors who were right. How do we, in the area of healthcare being incorporated in AI, rather being incorporated into health right now as we speak, how do we have our voice there other than just regulation when really there's still no transparency around it? How do regular people or people who are reliably informed have their voice in shaping this?
I once again hope we can just design better technology where through regulation it has to provide the source of information. If it's giving you a piece of medical advice, what is the citation? Is it a peer-reviewed article? Is it a government policy? Is it just something the lab put in there to avoid being sued? If I have that knowledge, now I can make better decisions.
Some of the peer-reviewed articles that came out during that time were later challenged,
Of
and
course.
and we need to, absolutely be open to that scientific discourse. But if we're in a moment like that and the AI is relying just on the peer reviews that, were wrong at the time, I see that as a really dangerous situation for humanity because we had humans making really bad decisions
Mhm.
during that era. If we're handing over that authority or using AI as an authoritative source, I see that as a problem. So I guess my question is, in your ideal world of how we utilize AI, does it become an authoritative source or is it just an assistant?
So I think it's capable of telling you how confident it is about a piece of knowledge. So the problem you're describing is a problem of us not knowing. Nobody knew. Then COVID just came out the first week or two. We had no idea if it has lethality rate of 50% or 2%. Does it harm kids? Nobody knew. So you do the best you can with information you have. If AI tells you something, 2 plus 2 is 4, and I have 100% confidence in it, that's one answer. If it says, well, I don't know, but leading doctors suggested this may be helpful, so maybe I'm 60% certain this is right, but here's 5 alternative views from people who may be not Harvard MDs, but you can listen to them as well.
I think the one of the concerns that I continually hear is that people don't trust the AI models as they are, and they don't trust some of those in the industry developing it. And certainly that may be some of the public messaging, like what's just been acknowledged by Sam Altman. Um, do you think that there is that those who well, first of all, do you think that there's a big problem with trust in AI, or do you think that it's necessary for people to not trust it?
I think it goes from previous 5 years of social media and fact checkers and obvious manipulation of truth.
Mhm.
And we kind of learned to know that fact checker means it's a lie. And so at this point, I think we're translating this to this domain. They also have people verifying facts and trying to tell you what the reality is. And for many real problems, nobody has a good answer.
I think the issue is that if this is going to be beneficial for humanity, if it's going to end up being something that serves humanity and doesn't harm it, it really requires people who are trustworthy steering the ship. Do you think that all of the people currently steering the ship can be put into the category of trustworthy?
I think the whole point is that no one can deal with so much power and not get corrupt. It's just not a thing a human being can do. And so we should not put so much power in one agent, whatever it is, human or AI. And that's what I'm talking about when I say we cannot control it, we cannot align it with our interests. We should not make something so powerful which would be capable of indefinitely staying in charge.
Mm, mm. So not trusting the humans and not trusting the agents, basically.
Not with global power. We know many people who started really well and ended up as dictators. 30 years later, they, canceling elections. So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we've definitely seen that. What sort of decisions do you think AI could make if it reached the point of ASI? What decisions could it make to maintain its power? Like, what's the worst case scenario here?
well, as I mentioned, existential risk comes to mind. It can decide to wipe out humans, and it has many ways of accomplishing that through either means we understand, like synthetic viruses, or something novel we cannot predict.
And in terms of a world domination scenario, you're talking about collapsing governments, collapsing elections, assuming control of, say an AGI says, "I'm now the world dictator," and basically you can't stop it. Is that something that could happen?
It is also a concern. Now you trying to understand what is quality of life like in a dictatorship. There are, benevolent dictators. You can be very powerful, refuse elections, but work really hard to benefit citizens and
Mhm.
try to make them meaningfully happy. If that's the case, maybe some people will actually find it acceptable. But we never asked 8 billion people if they consent to this experiment. And I think no one can consent because we don't fully understand what those systems are going to do, how they work, and predict specifics.
So your biggest concern, or one of, I should say, one of your biggest concerns sounds like you really think humanity just doesn't understand how badly this really could go. Is that right? Why do you think that is lacking?
That's part of it because most people think that those who are designing those systems or creating them understand what's going on, and there are adults in the room and they got it. The truth is, no one has any clue how it works. No one has a safety mechanism in place which can scale. This includes top labs, corporations, governments, no one.
Even top engineers?
They're on record as saying we don't fully understand more than a tiny portion of this neural network.
Why has no one said, I mean, no one with the ability to put an immediate pause on this said stop? Is it because, say, a president may say, well, we're in an AI arms race, we can't stop?
Thousands of people said stop, Nobel Prize winners, Turing Award winners, leading machine learning experts. There is no shortage of people saying stop, organizations, nonprofits, some politicians.
I mean, something like a president or a prime minister. They, there's thousands of people out there warning them. I'm sure that there are people, as you said, politicians that are saying this, but no world leaders said, right, this is dangerous. We need to
So
stop.
what we saw federal government, which is basically Trump, banned two models. They
Mm.
said those are too dangerous to deploy, at least to non-US citizens. Interesting approach to that safety issue, but that's what they did. So there is precedent of president banning AI. We had a big AI conference in China. President of China said that we need to make sure we're in control. They still hopeful that they can figure out the control problem, and I think that's the mistake they're making. They think if they spend enough resources and get enough time, they can control something super intelligent. I think that's a mistake, and it's an impossible problem to solve. It's like creating a perpetual motion machine. It's a perpetual safety device. You just cannot do it. Then that becomes a default understanding of this problem. I think everyone will not just say stop, but actually stop.
Interesting. You think that's the inevitable outcome, that we're just going to have everyone just stop?
I mean, there is always psychopaths. People have nothing to lose, so I cannot speak for 8 billion people, but I think those who are at least deserving of being in control of some of those countries and corporations would exercise personal self interest, not to destroy what they built.
Do you think that's part of the hesitation of some world leaders to not stop is the amount of control that this opens the door for them to have?
I think the problem is that before you get to superhuman levels, having a more advanced AI is an advantage in military applications, in economy. So you want to be ahead of competition. The moment there is paradigm shift to superhuman capabilities, all of it doesn't matter. You're no longer in charge and it's not benefiting you. So they're all trying to get as close as they can to that level without crossing it.
Why can't super intelligence rather, be unplugged?
Well, it's smarter than you. It predicts what you're going to try to unplug it and will take you out before that. It is also typically a distributed system. It's like, why can't you turn off internet or Bitcoin network or a computer virus? It's not designed for that.
How would it predict that you're going to do that?
It's very smart.
How?
How is it smart? It's literally like a pattern recognizer. It understands game theoretically that, I mean, we have no shortage of AI safety papers describing those scenarios. I read all those papers.
Right, but we're talking about a essentially an algorithm or a mathematical equation being able to predict human behavior. Isn't that terrifying?
Well, don't think of it as a mathematical equation. Think of it as a brain like yours, but running in silicon. Much faster, much more efficient, much better memory, constantly improving itself. Most people, I mean, generations of people don't get smarter with every generation. We're about the same today as we were millennia ago, maybe with more knowledge, but not generally more intelligent.
Right.
Whereas AI gets 30% smarter every year.
But how does it predict human behavior? This is I feel like this is crossing. I understand detecting patterns. I understand, gathering a whole bunch of data points. But if I haven't given it any indication that I'm going to unplug, how would it know?
So, one thing to do is to think about possibilities. Am I safe right now? Can someone come and kill me? Can someone come and steal my property? I don't need to know that someone is planning it, but I can prepare for that outcome. I can put security system in my house. How did I know that someone will try to do it?
So AI has been programmed to think that way, or is doing that already of its own volition?
Well, both. A, it has access to literature where we describe what can happen, and B, it's just common sense. Somebody can try and change you. We do it all the time. We don't like a certain behavior in a model, we shut it down and retrain it.
Speaking of having access to literature, we're hearing stories about certain companies buying up books and shredding them afterwards. How likely is it that AGI, let's just go with AGI, would get to the point where it says, right, I'm inherently manipulative for some strange reason, and now I'm going to erase this part of human history. Could it go and alter all digital libraries if it wanted to?
It is possible if you have control over common history, you're essentially controlling what those entities represent, you're controlling their memories. So it is a concern. I don't know why they need to shred the books. They can just scan them without destroying them and keep the books, but it is definitely a source of novel data.
Yeah. Do you think that that's perhaps an indication that there may be a plan to alter history with this extreme power that AI is going to have, or give those that own it, I guess?
Again, there is infinite number of possibilities on what you can do with technology like that. I prioritize them by most important, worst possible outcomes. If we can deal with the worst case, we can figure out, technological unemployment, loss of meaning, all those privacy concerns are secondary.
If we did get to the point, let me ask you, because you described this scenario where everyone's sort of living in abundance and, um, you know, there is free money, if you will. Um, are you for that scenario?
What choice do you have if you don't have a job? How are you going to provide for your family?
Okay, so are we trying to now say, no, we don't want AI to get any further, and we actually don't want the scenario where 99% of people are unemployed?
So, what we want is all the jobs you hate and do just to get paid.
Mm.
to be fully automated, and all the jobs where you love it and you would honestly do it for free, but don't tell your employer, you want those to stay. You want fun careers and hobbies you get paid for. You don't want to be a janitor.
Right. So in that scenario where everyone's sort of living in abundance and getting free money, wouldn't there wouldn't that open the door for strings to come attached to that money, like compliance, certain compliance measures?
Always have been.
Hmm. And do you foresee that becoming, what I'm asking, I guess, is would that be much more stringent? Because right now people have a sort of way out. They can change jobs, they can use alternative currencies, things of this nature. But in a situation where we have a programmable digital currency, something like an interoperable CBDC that travels between nations, and that being tied to your UBI, wouldn't that, be quite restrictive on people in the event of XYZ compliance measures?
Yeah, of course it could be, depends on who's in charge. But today, government has monopoly on violence. They can tax you at any level, including over 100%. So I don't know how much worse it will get.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with you on that. I just don't know what the solution is.
Don't build general superintelligence. I think that's the main part. If we figure it out, we can deal with smaller problems later.
Sure, sure, I understand. But even with the capabilities that it has now, we're potentially staring down the barrel of a really problematic scenario. For example, the World Economic Forum has said that they foresee a lot of protesting on the streets because of how many people are going to be out of work. That's not a small impact to society. When you're talking about mass protests on the streets because of unemployment, that you
Only
know.
if they don't have means to support themselves. As I said, if we redistribute the taxed super profits, they are happy at home smoking pot.
I don't know if they'd be happy at home smoking pot. With maybe some people would, but certainly
The
that.
ones who protest will be.
Uh, you think so? You think they would be happy if they were given a UBI like that? That would placate the masses.
Again, most people don't want to do work which they don't enjoy. They can still do work they enjoy if they have money anyways. So lots of people have awesome hobbies, volunteer, have meaning through other means than doing very boring physical labor or dirty jobs. I don't think that's a problem. I think it's an improvement to employment system.
So you're for this?
I am for not having terrible jobs. I support in a situation where you have no choice, providing for people to be able to support their families.
And even if we don't get to the point of ASI, do you think that situation is inevitable?
So, to automate labor, you just have to have human level capability.
Mhm.
And in that narrow domain, it doesn't have to be general intelligence, it can be an expert in a specific domain.
Okay. So where we're at right now, we could get to that scenario, and the best possible outcome from in your view is that what we could do is provide for the people so that they can at least do what they enjoy in that process. Is that correct?
Right, look at the jobs we have today. Somebody sitting there collecting tolls on a highway.
Mm.
We can fully automate that job. They're not going to miss that job. And if they get other means of supporting their family, it's a win for economy.
Do you see how something like that, how some people could be concerned that something like that would come with many more strings attached than the current system? For example, you're a toll booth worker and your employer wants you to do this, and you can say, no, I don't want to do that. I'm going to go find another job. But if there's no other job to go to, your only source of income is a UBI divvied up by whoever, and you don't want to comply with XYZ, there goes your entire existence.
I think we already discussed all the opportunities to start a business to actually go beyond the bare minimum and be wealthy.
So, but that would mean that you would need to know how to code or
No,
or at
that's the
least.
whole point. You now have agents which do it for you. You have a programmer you can use. You have an accountant. You can ask for general advice, such as what's a good business to start in my area?
Right. So the option would be, okay, you don't have to comply in order to get your basic income, but you can use AI to go and create infinite possibilities basically for yourself, is what you're saying.
And I think it's much better if more people had their own startups versus working for someone else. It would be beneficial for them and economy as a whole.
I agree there for sure. I want to see more people being self-sufficient as much as possible. Although I have listened to and share some of the concerns of people who worry about, a system where you have a programmable digital currency that could be tied to your behavior, for example. And that is, I guess, even with the AI systems that are in existence today in the wrong hands, that's already a possibility.
Absolutely, but we're kind of walking towards it anyways. It's cashless society for most people. Your credit cards are fully transparent to the government. All your bank transactions, 99% of people work in that world.
So we're saying it's inevitable, so we need to learn to adapt. Is that correct?
So again, I'm trying to sort problems by significance. If we
Mm.
can survive this technology, then we can figure out how to have private cryptocurrencies. Some examples exist. How to redistribute wealth, how to give people opportunities not to be reliant on government handout. All that is solvable. We understand what the options are.
Hmm.
All
Hmm.
of it depends on us not creating something where we are not surviving that technology.
Even with your very cautious and delicate approach to this issue of AI safety, which I so appreciate, it sounds like the future of AI becoming sort of part of almost every aspect of life is inevitable. And no doubt that will have some benefits. And no doubt it'll have some drawbacks. That's kind of the case with every technological revolution or a bit of progress or anything in this world, right? Like there's benefits, there's negatives. But we're seeing so many people, even youth. Was it Schmidt who gave a speech at a college? These people have just graduated. He's talking about how AI is going to change the world, and the students are booing. These
Mhm.
young people are booing. They've just spent all this money on these college degrees, and they foresee this as a way of destroying their future prospects. Um, the future that you're describing sounds inevitable, and it sounds like people are going to have to radically change their attitude towards AI if they want to survive and thrive in this world. Would you agree with that?
Well, if everyone else is adopting this technology and you choose not to, it's a disadvantage for you. So we have Amish, right? Amish exist. They
Hmm.
choose not to use our technology, but it's a disadvantage. They are smart enough to go, okay, if it's an emergency, I'll go to the hospital anyways. I'll accept help from advanced technology, but that's a choice you can make. If we don't create general superintelligence, we're still around, we're still alive, then you can be a part of this group where you are not at the cutting edge. You're just enjoying life in the old fashioned way.
Do you think that people will be left to live their lives in this way, not participate in the AI economy, if you will?
Again, if we avoid the bad outcomes and all we have is some people have advanced tools, integrate with AI much better, and some choose not to, I think market allows to have those choices. You can do something man-made, human-made, which is a niche market, but you charge a premium, and some people like buying furniture not made by robots.
What of the people that say, I don't want this at all in society. Like, I just want this to stop altogether. And maybe not due to a lack of their understanding. Maybe they're watching this and going, I don't want a future where there's universal high, basic or high or any kind of universal income. I don't want a future where people are being replaced by artificial intelligence. I want a more human centric future. What do we say to those people? Because there's a lot.
Apply this to any other change in society. I don't want roads. I don't want airplanes. Nobody cares what I want. If majority of people wants it, it's going to happen.
Yeah, sure. But what if it gets to the point where a majority don't?
And majority should be in charge, and we should decide. Again, ideally, we don't infringe on rights of minority to have access to tools they want, as long as that doesn't harm the rest of us.
Right, and the discussion really is around harm. So again, to summarize, your message really is that obviously you're pro AI, you see all the benefits that it can have in
I'm
society,
very
and
pro-human with advanced tools.
sure.
AI, again, that term is applied to tools, AGI, and superintelligence. If we separate them, it becomes a different set of arguments.
Right, okay, I understand. And you're calling for, with a chorus of many others, by the way, calling for this to pause right now until we iron out XYZ. And you're saying that even if we iron those things out, we still can never get to the point of ASI because we can't control it.
Exactly.
And we need some sort of a world agreement to make sure that
That's right.
governments and private companies are not getting to that point. Is that right?
That is precisely what I'm hoping to accomplish.
It sounds like a really common sense idea to me. It's I don't necessarily agree that a UBI is the best outcome, although I'm really
I'm
glad to
open to
consider
hear an
your.
alternative in a world where you lost your job. If you have a better solution, let's do it.
Yeah, well, I guess if I can just be really frank with you, um, the idea of society as a whole allowing any kind of mass replacement of humans, and I know that people will refer to previous industrial revolutions in response to this, but this is on another scale, and I'm sure you know that a society that allows that and allows the possibility of this many people becoming destitute or unable to provide for their families, without a sort of government welfare system, which is a UBI potentially linked to many different compliance measures, is very alarming to me. It's alarming that we've gotten to that point in the first place. I personally would like to see, although I'm pro freedom, so I can't make laws that people can't use it. But I'd personally like to see a direction that society moves in where we commit as a whole to ensuring not to replace human beings.
So even if it's a job where a person hates it and would rather just not have to do it and still be able to survive, you would force them to do that job anyways.
No, certainly not force. I think that people have the choice to do jobs at the moment that they don't like. There are many people that need to work and they can choose between a range of different jobs that they don't necessarily love at the moment. I've done plenty, but that's a way of being a productive member of society. And if you don't like that particular job, you can switch to another. No one forced me to do that. It was just a necessary thing. And I would still have rather done that than had a UBI issued to me. Absolutely.
I think a lot of this negative perception of a UBI is the same as negative perception of communism. It just doesn't work with humans. You have to tax someone else's labor, you're essentially stealing from them. And that's, of course, terrible. You don't want to do that. The situation changes when you have robots or AI, which may not mind working and then being taxed on those super profits. So if money was free, the idea of getting unconditional income for all humans on the planet becomes very attractive. If aliens were paying for some reason, they wanted to give us trillions of dollars every year, we'd be very happy to split it 8 billion ways. If you're not taking it from somebody's slave labor, but it's just an extra benefit, it is a complete game changer in analyzing UBI or any of those previous ideas which didn't work.
If it was unconditional, let me put it to you this way. If it was unconditional and governments could guarantee, not that we believe a lot of their guarantees anyway, because they make a lot of promises that they don't keep. But if there was some sort of guarantee with the punishment of by law if they violate this guarantee, and a guarantee that someone was actually going to hold them accountable if they went down this path, in the scenario that you're describing, I could see how that could be beneficial to some, provided that the guarantee exists that the government could never, or whoever's in charge, corporations, whatever, that they could never make that income conditional on your compliance with, say, getting a vaccine,
Right.
for
So we're
example.
against conditional basic income. We support unconditional basic income. Perfect. We solved it.
Unconditional. So we're saying no matter what
Unconditional.
you say, no matter what you do, or other than
It's a
committing
smart
crimes for which
contract. It comes to your account in a blockchain. Nobody can modify it. They don't have the keys. We solved it.
do you think that's realistic?
We know how to do that. Unlike control of superintelligence, I can write a smart contract to send you money every month.
Right. So that's assuming that you are a trustworthy person. I'm not saying you're not, but I'm just saying someone who doesn't know you, assuming you're a trustworthy person and nothing nefarious is ever going to interfere with that. I mean, there's no guarantee,
We
Dr.
can
Yampolskiy,
examine
that
the
they wouldn't
code.
do it.
We can see the smart contract and see if it's modifiable. We can see who controls it. It could be distributed, decentralized. We can make it where that part is actually open sourced, examined, and guaranteed. That is solvable. It's very important to understand the difference between problems in computer science we know how to solve
Mhm.
and things we can never do, like, again, control of something smarter than us.
Right. That would also require a public education campaign on the difference between a smart contract and something that can be, would understand people would need to understand the code. And how would we
Well,
make sure that they do?
not everyone has to examine the code as long as people who are advocates for freedom and government limits can be the ones guaranteeing the quality of that contract.
I would never sign something without reading and understanding the code, that without knowing for sure that there could never be any conditions put upon me for that universal basic. I wouldn't sign up to a UBI anyway. I'm just telling you. But I'm saying if I was in that situation without understanding what the guarantees actually are in code, I would highly advise people against doing that, actually. I'm just being honest with you. And therefore, those people would then need to understand what the code and what they're reading. And I just think that that's an unrealistic demand of a huge portion of society.
I think all of us agree to contracts we don't understand. We're using Zoom right now. I'm sure you clicked agree to their contract and you have no idea if violating your privacy right now or
They
not.
are. They
But,
absolutely are. And
but it's
that's
a good piece of software and
it's
we're
a good
using it because
software.
it's convenient. And if it came with free money, we would take that too.
Well, depends what conditions were involved in that free money. But I'm saying, when you're talking about people like understanding conditions in code, that's a level of understanding that a lot of people, myself included, just wouldn't have.
A contract doesn't have to be big and complex. We used to Senate passing those bills with 1,000 pages nobody can read. It could
Mm,
be a very small piece of information where you
mm.
understand what, when, and by who. That's all. That's all you need to know. Now, the cryptographic proofs and signatures, that is not a part most people can understand and examine, but that is something experts can confirm for you. So the high level reading of what is being promised, everyone's like Bill of Rights. You have a right to happiness, to liberty, and to guaranteed Bitcoin a month. Joking, not everyone gets a Bitcoin. But the rest of it, you can trust experts. In some cases, it is fine not to be an expert in everything. That's why we hire someone to help us with a contract. We hire a lawyer because we trust them to help us.
How are they going to hire a lawyer if they don't have money until they sign the contract?
Well, luckily, we'll have legal experts who are free AIs.
But we'd have to trust them as well. You understand my point. I'm not trying to be a stickler. I'm talking from the mindset of people who are really concerned about the
Mhm.
use of this technology in light of the people who are developing it right now as we speak.
I understand completely, and you're basically saying what I'm saying. The
Mm,
safety cannot be guaranteed at 100%, and so for certain things, it's unacceptable. It's unacceptable for placing something smarter than us in charge of a planet. Is it acceptable for dealing with privacy? Not ideal, but we'll survive it. And
mhm.
that's the difference. At some point, we have to accept things we don't fully understand. As long as they are not likely to impact all of humanity at once permanently, I think we can deal with it.
Do you think that the majority of the population have an understanding, or even an understanding of some of the risks that I've highlighted to you, for example?
It's a spectrum. Many people don't have clue what we've been talking about. They're not gonna watch this.
Well, that's true. There are a lot of people who won't see this. And there are a lot of people who don't have a clue about the impacts of, some of these technologies on their lives. And I worry for those people. I wonder how the AI industry is going to tackle helping people bridge that gap.
We don't know what's going to happen, but this is a very good time to where if you are not an expert in something, you can get advice for
Mm.
very cheap and consultation and discussion. And if you're interested education in that space.
So what do you say to people who are worried about the future with any type of AI, not just ASI, even where it's at right now, who think that this isn't actually a net positive, despite all of the things that you've described, which I think are legitimate, that could help humanity? What do you say to those people?
So again, I would separate AI term into three buckets, and I would say that we can get more benefits and less harms from AI tools. Overall, they'll make you wealthier, healthier, happier. And I think anything human level and above is mostly negative, and you'll regret building it.
Mhm. And then we can iron out some of the other concerns as we go, basically.
Exactly. We'll have good tools to help us make those decisions.
That's great. What are you currently working on in terms of helping get this message out of we need to stop right here? Just tell us about some of your projects.
I started a podcast recently. It's called The Roman Forum. You can see it advertised in this corner. And I interview AI safety experts, leaders of top organizations, presidents, professors, and we're trying to understand what needs to happen in terms of governance, in terms of AI safety research for the tools we want to use. That's what I'm doing at the moment, in addition to continuing my research on safety and security of AI.
Well, I really want to say, Dr. Yampolskiy, I really did appreciate this conversation and the fact that we were able to exchange some different ideas as well, even differing viewpoints. I think it's really important because what I see so often is that people involved in the AI space aren't really talking to the masses so much as they are people who are just interested in what they have to say. They're not really thinking about the concerns that the everyday people may have. And I appreciate that you've thought about these things and given us your time today. So just before you mentioned your podcast, I want to bring it up for everyone. You can see this on YouTube, the Roman Forum with Roman Yampolskiy. You can see that there. And also you can follow Dr. Roman Yampolskiy on X. Any other spots that you would like to plug?
You can follow me on X and Facebook. Just don't follow me home. It's very important.
Sure. Don't think you're at risk of that coming on this show.
Yes, I am.
We really do appreciate your time. Thank you very much, Dr. Yampolskiy.
Thank you so much. Excellent questions. Thank you.
The New World Order has openly declared war on the free people of the world, and now they're telling us to expect catastrophic cyber attacks over the next 2 years. Weather events, no power, grids down, mobile cell services out. Contact your loved ones anywhere, anytime with the satellite phone store. The Bivy is a revolutionary GPS-based device which allows you to send SMS messages via your phone even if you have no mobile or cell service. Galileo will ensure you always stay in contact with Z Media, other trusted information sources, and your loved ones that can update you in real time in the event of an emergency. Don't be caught out and unprepared for the unprecedented times we are living in. Stay 10 steps ahead through secure, encrypted communication. Visit sat123.com/Maria and prepare yourself and your loved ones now. Again, we'd like to thank Dr. Yampolskiy for his time and his insight into this very pressing issue, which is looming over global society as a whole. It's not every day you get to have a conversation with a gentleman of his stature in the field of AI, and it's especially rare, in my opinion, to hear podcasters disagreeing on some of these issues. We're grateful that he was open to that discussion. A quick reminder, if you're not already following this channel, to hit that subscribe button, like the video, leave your thoughts in the comments below, and let us know what you'd like to see next. most importantly, sharing this information is especially important considering how urgent this issue is. So share this video around. If you'd like to support our work, the best way to do that is to shop with our sponsors. All of their links are in the description below. We partner with businesses who actually offer solutions, including the satellite phone store for all of your emergency communication needs, power, Faraday bags for your privacy, and much, much more. If you're in Australia, visit Stockman Steaks for the best quality meat from farmers who care about your future. Check out privacy phones at Above Phone. And for those who are interested in self-sufficiency like me, head to texasready.net, promo code Maria, for the finest USDA certified non-GMO, non-hybrid heirloom seeds on the market. We need to be in control of our own food supply, stat. So check out those links in the description and tell them all Maria sent you. Thank you all for tuning in tonight. We'll see you soon.